Benjamin Netanyahu's government waged a secret campaign to stop Britain boycotting trade with Israel. That's the latest exclusive from my colleague, John McAvoy, who joins me now. John, great to have you with us again.
Thanks for having me back again, Phil.
John, this story comes during the Conservative Party conference, which we've both been denied access from, and it shed some extraordinary light on one of the most senior Conservative politicians of the last government, Michael Gove, who's known to be very pro-Israel and tried to push this bill through Parliament to ban councils from boycotting goods grown on illegal Israeli settlements. What you found from this cache of leaked documents sheds much more light on what was going on behind the scenes in the years leading up to that bill and his contact with the Israeli government on this matter. Can you talk us through this story that you've published for us today?
Yeah, so what we've seen from this leak from the Israeli Ministry of Justice is that back in November 2015, the EU, the European Commission, was developing guidelines on how to label products that came from illegally occupied Palestinian land from illegal Israeli settlements. And it's clear from these documents that the Israeli government is very concerned about these EU guidelines being rolled out, because obviously, if wholesalers and consumers are aware that certain products are coming from what are stemming from violations of international law, then they will be able to boycott them. And the Israeli government has been for many years very concerned about the BDS movement, which aims to boycott Israeli products that have been produced from illegal settlements. And so the Israeli Minister of Justice visits Britain. She takes an official visit, this Ayelet Shaked, and she has a meeting with Michael Gove on the 9th of November 2015. And so during this meeting, one of the key issues that's been brought up by Ayelet Shaked, the Israeli Minister of Justice, is this issue of EU, the EU labelling guidelines. And following the meeting, which Michael Gove said he very much enjoyed, Gove requests information basically on this EU guidelines and how the UK government might respond to it. And so the Israeli Ministry of Justice and the Israeli Foreign Ministry prepare a detailed paper for Michael Gove, effectively detailing how, in their opinion, this is a political move. It's not consistent with other EU guidelines on other occupied lands, such as the Western Sahara. And they basically encourage Gove that, given that this is a political move, that you should exercise restraint in adopting any of the guidelines that have been proposed by the EU. So what the Israeli government are effectively saying is, this is a political move which is aimed at damaging Israel's interests, and the UK government should exercise restraint in following any of the guidelines. So there's a very clear lobbying effort here to ensure that Britain complies to the minimal degree possible with the new EU guidelines.
So this was really just to have accurate labels in supermarkets so that people could know that they were buying effectively stolen goods. And this was triggered this furious backlash from the Israeli government, which Gove was very willing to go along with. Right, this became a 2019 Tory manifesto pledge that he then tried to pass through Parliament. It looks like he ran out of time to get the bill through. But can you tell us a bit more about just some of the extraordinary things that happened after this meeting at the embassy, the kind of reaction that it generated?
It wasn't only the issue of the EU labelling guidelines that was discussed at this meeting between Gove and Shaked. One of the other things that came out of the meeting was Gove requested more information about a list of NGOs that were in receipt of UK government funding. And it wasn't immediately clear what Gove was specifically asking for there, what they had discussed during the meeting. But I found another Israeli memo which discusses Israel's complaints basically to the British government about a series of NGOs based in Britain and elsewhere that receive UK government funding that participate or promote in BDS, in the boycotts campaign against Israel. And so what the Israeli government is proposing in this memo to the UK government is that it basically defunds, it removes funding from, I think it is a list of 13 different NGOs. They include Christian Aid, Al-Haq, which is a major Palestinian human rights organization. And the issue that they had, particularly with Al Haq, was not just that they promote or participate in BDS, but also that they were engaged in legal complaints against Israel over war crimes and crimes against humanity at the International Criminal Court. So what the Israeli government is effectively requesting here is that the UK government remove funding from organisations that are looking to find justice for Palestinian victims of Israeli war crimes. It's quite incredible. It's quite a major ask as well from one government to another.
This sheds light on the kind of influence that Netanyahu's government has been able to have over British politics in recent years, which many people have long suspected, but these leaked documents shed light on exactly how that was being put into practice behind the scenes. And this went on until at least 2019 from the documents you've seen, where there was another issue, wasn't there? This UN database of companies involved in Israel's occupation of the West Bank that again seemed to trigger this backlash from the Israeli authorities behind the scenes.
In 2016, the UN kind of outlined plans to create a database of, as you mentioned, companies that were profiting or engaging in, illegally occupied Palestinian land. And obviously, this once again sent shockwaves through the Israeli government. The fear, once again, was that this was going to facilitate the boycotts movement against Israel. And so what we found through these leaked Israeli Ministry of Justice documents, was that they commissioned a really high-profile powerhouse US legal firm, Crowell and Mooring, to basically advise them on how they could get around this database, how they could basically make sure that this had no impact on these businesses. Not only in the UK but also in the US. And I mean, it's not included in the article, but one of the recommendations for the US government from this law firm that they commissioned was that they could effectively sanction any country that complied with it, which is quite an incredible ask. Now, the US at the time of this legal advice, which was in February 2019, it already had some anti-boycott legislation in place. So Crowell and Mooring were able to advise Israel how they could basically utilize that pre-existing legislation. To the contrary, the UK didn't at that time have any anti-boycott legislation in place. So what they advised the Israeli Ministry of Justice to do was to use certain lobby groups based in the UK, and they specifically named Labour Friends of Israel and Conservative Friends of Israel as kind of mediums through which they could put pressure on the UK government to ensure that this new UN database would have the least impact possible on Israeli trade. And so it's quite interesting to see the Israeli government being specifically advised that these lobby groups, which claim they have no financial ties or other to the Israeli state, being really exploited on behalf of the Israeli state.
Conservative and Labour Friends of Israel are two groups that we've spoken about extensively on this channel. I'll put a link to some of our other videos about them. It's a really important investigation that you've done, John, going through these leaked Israeli Ministry of Justice documents. Thank you for doing this work for us. If people would like to see more investigations like this from John, please subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, and you can read the full story on our website. Thanks for watching.